Welcome back to the Be a Man podcast, where we encourage men to be better men. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast, men. I am glad that you joined us for this special episode. In the episode, I have the opportunity to talk with Jarrett Samuels. Now, a lot of you may know Jarrett because he runs the Pursuit of Manliness podcast. He has a YouTube channel, a website, all those awesome things that are very influential today. Jarrett is a husband, he's a father, and most of all, he's a Notre Dame fan, which I thoroughly like and appreciate. And he's got a killer beard, which I always appreciate as well. But I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. We get into a lot of things. We get into what manhood is. We get into, just how that impacts the church, and the lack of good men have really hurt the church in many ways. And there's been this kind of break there that manhood wasn't encouraged for several years. And I think he and many others are trying to bring that back. And so we can build up and fulfill what Titus tells us to do. And that is to raise and be teaching younger men. And that never stops. That is something we continuously do. And, we get into some other things, family, the gospel, what that is, what that means, how Jesus impacts your life, or should impact your life, and how that impacts how you become a man in this life. But I really love this conversation. I think you're going to love it as well. I will drop all the links to all of his contacts, his website, all that stuff in the description. So go check that out. Go give him a follow. He would greatly appreciate that as well. I think the one thing you're going to find as you listen to Jarrett and myself talk is that Jarrett is an authentic guy who just wants to encourage and see people know about Jesus. He says himself, there's nothing special about him. There's nothing that, he's just this, amazing guy or whatever, but he is really honest and authentic and says, I'm just an average guy who just wants to see people know Jesus better and follow God with their whole life. And I personally, I have many of those same goals, if not the same. And I want to see people know Jesus and follow him with their lives. And Jarrett is someone I have looked up to for quite some time. Even though he didn't know that, we have followed each other on Instagram for a while, but we have many of the same purposes. And I really think you are going to thoroughly enjoy this episode. If you do, go like it, subscribe it, rate it 5-star, whatever, is on there you can do to help spread this word, spread this message. I know we both greatly appreciate that, but most of all, if it impacts you in some way, shoot us a message or go share it with a friend, because if it made an impact on you, 9 times out of 10, it's going to make a huge impact on someone else's life as well. So the best way you can get that out there is to go share it. It's not hard to do. It only takes a couple of clicks on your phone, your computer, whatever you have. And, it makes a world of difference for us. And we greatly appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. All right. Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited about this, Jarrett. I really am. I've been excited to have this conversation with you. I followed you for quite a few years now. So let's dive into, who are you in case somebody doesn't know?
Well, I'm Jarrett Samuels. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I just feel like I need to add Indiana on there. I don't know why. I'm not from here. I got 3 kids, 2 of them in high school, 1 in elementary school. I've been married for 21 years. I have a podcast, and I'm a pastor. So that's the LinkedIn version, I suppose. So yeah, that's what I am, man.
I'm actually from the Indy area too. So I grew up there 20 some years, and I've kind of moved around now. We've been in
Louisville. I went to Southern Seminary, and then we're in Illinois now, so we've kind of made kind of a big U. So someday maybe we'll get back to the Indy area, but that's just how it goes. But I enjoy that area. Whereabouts are you?
We're in the Castleton area, so the northeast side. We've kind of done the same thing. We're from Iowa originally, and we went to Southern Illinois. Then we lived in New Albany area, Sellersburg, and back to Iowa. Now we're here, so we've kind of zigzagged, probably same place as you're at this point.
Yeah. We lived in Carmel there for a while.
Oh yeah.
When my wife and I got married, we lived there for 6 or 7 years, and then decided to. I went to a good church there, and just kind of had a pastor that gave me a chance and just poured into me. And it was there that I decided to go to Southern and, get into ministry and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun, but I really enjoyed it. But tell people about your podcast, your Instagram, what you're doing.
Yeah, it's called The Pursuit of Manliness. And it was born in a season where, I knew I was definitely not a man of God. I was a Christian guy. I wasn't a man of God. And I told people I wasn't depressed, but I was depressing. And there was just an air of apathy. And we can go into it or not, but it's just basically a season where God really had to wake me up. And so I remember talking to a friend of mine through text, and I said, man, we need something. I didn't know what was out there. I'm socially awkward as it is. So I said, we need something for guys where we get together and talk about stuff. Because I think my wife was doing like a healthy eater or a mom's meals group, or I don't know what it was. I was like, we need something like that, and I didn't know all those things even existed already. And so I just kind of went back and forth trying to figure it out. And that's where I came up with the pursuit. I was the pursuit, like it is a constant pursuit of trying to figure out biblical manliness, and it will be a lifetime pursuit. So we're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and that might be it.
Dive into that more, that depressed, because man, I've talked to so many guys that's where they are. And I don't know if these last few years have kind of, I don't know, it's something has awakened in some guys that something needs to change. And so, I mean, dive into that because it's everywhere.
Well, so here's the story. I, married, we have a couple kids, and I was telling someone today that, I remember I was a children's minister for a long time. And I remember in my living room working on like a family experience at church. So kids and parents together. And I was making the DVDs and all the videos and editing them. And my wife would go in the back and she would read like a Bible story to our daughter, who was like 1 or 2 at the time. And I remember thinking, I don't need to be back there. She's 1. She's not remembering any of that. And you talk about being a hypocrite. Here I am telling these guys, this is how you need to lead your house. And I'm not doing anything. So I wasn't a bad guy. I just wasn't a good guy. I wasn't a godly man. And so I was in ministry and pretty apathetic. And my wife has said, she's had 2 husbands and they're both me. The first one was essentially a boy, if you will, with no direction, whatever. And now she has a man. But it really came the morning that my son was born. It was our 3rd child. He was born with a collapsed lung. We get rushed to the NICU upstairs, and it's fast and furious and dark and scary and all. I mean, in the moment, you're just like, oh, what do we do? It's overwhelming. And those popcorn prayers, you're just praying them, and that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And I remember praying, God, if you help this little boy fight, I'll fight. And I thought, that's one of the dumbest things I ever heard. Even in the moment, I thought, you sound like an idiot, because there was no fight in me, but I just kept praying. Right. So he gets out eventually after a couple weeks in the NICU. There's a lot of stories there, but we eventually get out. And about 2 years later, I'm watching him play on this little Nerf hoop and the step. He would dunk the ball on. I thought it's pretty cool. And it was as if the Lord honestly came and sat right next to me. And I had this really like, man, I can't believe this is a cool moment. I get to see this. And those words came back to me right there. Huh. God, if you help this little boy fight, I'll fight. And fear ran through me. And I thought, we're about to get real uncomfortable. And from that day on, it has been very uncomfortable. So, but it's been a good uncomfort. So for me, the first thing I did was go back to Genesis 1 and be like, all right, you're up, God. If this, I believe in this book, I believe in you, but it ain't doing a lot for me. So I'm going to need to read this different. So I'm reading it now from looking at Adam and saying, okay, what do I do with that? Instead of looking at him as a superhero or a guy on video or flannel graph or whatever, what do I do with that? And so started trying to look at it different. And for me, that was a game changer.
Yeah, man, that's good. I think all of us have had something similar happen where we've had some type of experience or something. And I mean, for me, it was our third as well. I got the text or call, I can't remember. And, you know, it was just supposed to be a routine checkup and the cord's wrapped around her neck. So they said, you know, we got to take her right now. And so I remember, and it was about close to an hour drive to get to the hospital from where I was and where my wife was. So I'm like, man, the whole way I'm just praying, crying out to God. And I remember that so vividly. And I think for all of us, it takes that moment where we realize that things are going to change. And I mean, even before that, I think with our first, I can remember bringing her home and not having a clue what to do. And as most fathers, and I just remember sitting there looking at her and saying, things are different now. Like something has to change. Like I can't, it's just not me and my wife anymore. It's just not, you know, playing games anymore, whatever. Like this kid is dependent on me and me solely, you know? And I just think for guys, there has to be this level where we take it up a notch. And it sounds like that was that experience for you. And there's been experiences for all of us, but for us, we're coming at this from a faith perspective. And how does that in particular drive you? Because I know there's guys out there who are on the fence and, you know, some may be Christians who listen, some may not be. I've been talking to some guys lately who are not, and they're just kind of feeling it out and seeing whether they want to go down that route or not, but they're curious and they're searching and they see that there's something different with men who are truly godly. And I just wonder if you can speak to that a little bit, just how that drive.
Well, let's start with this. If you're an unbeliever, you're out on Jesus, you're not sure where you're at on that, could you at least admit that you are responsible to other people? If you at least can grab that, you say, you know what, there are some people in my life who are dependent upon my actions. You know, they are dependent upon my paycheck. They are dependent upon my provisions. Or if you at least can do that. Now, if you say, yeah, I could do that, it's overwhelming. Amen. It is overwhelming. The Bible gives us the roadmap now how to live that out. And so the Bible tells me pretty clear, I'm a mess and you're a mess. And so when we get to the point where we can admit, you know what, I don't have it figured out. I'm not as good as I hoped I was. I'm definitely not as good as I think I used to be. But now because of Christ, I have new life because of him. If I laid the foundation of John 14:6, he's the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to God the Father except through him. Great. So now I'm forgiven. Now what am I do? Well, Romans 6:4 says you're buried with Christ. You're raised to walk in a new life. That means that old guy doesn't live here no more. You know, I've even purged a bunch of old stuff from high school and trophy, whatever they were, plaques or whatever. That guy don't live here anymore. So if you came here looking for him, he's gone. So the understanding is then I'm responsible for other people. My presence matters. My investment in their life matters. I don't get to decide how I'm remembered, but I do get to decide the effort that I exert towards my wife and children. So for me, it came down to like, look, I get a chance to write a new story, a new legacy. There's a lot of guys with a lot of brokenness in their life from their father, grandfather, you know, lack thereof or whatever. And they carry that scar with them forever, and they're never going to get that reconciled. But if you can say, hold up, I'm a grown man now. I'm drawing that line in the sand and say, I'm never going to live like that no more. That old guy's gone. This is a new guy. Then you get a chance to be a point man for the people that come after you. Say, I'm going to lead you on a different path, and it's going to be a better path. Now, I know I get lost pretty easily. I literally get lost pretty easily. So I'm going to need some people along the way to help me stay on the right path. That's where community comes in. So then I have to admit, hey, I got some scars and some stuff in my life that aren't good, or that I'm ashamed of, or I'm embarrassed of, or stuff that's happened to me or whatever. Yeah. But what I quickly realize is, so do you. And that's going to be okay. We're going to get better together. So For me, it is this thing where the Christian life is such a dichotomy. It's the individual. I have to surrender individually, but I need you. I need collectively. I need the body. I need more people to come alongside me because I will not have all the answers. As a matter of fact, I may have more questions than answers, and that's going to be okay as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this need for community is huge. And I think somewhere along the way, it stopped. And I'm not sure exactly when it happened. I don't know if you can kind of pinpoint that. I've tried and I can't. I don't know. Like, I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, a guy was asking me today, a guy that's in one of our online communities, and he was saying, obviously face-to-face is better. Face-to-face friendships are better. I said, I agree. The season I'm in at the church I'm at, when I got there, I thought, there's nobody here that I can be buddies with, if that makes sense. I'm going to be like, man, did you see that game? I can't believe that. Or that guy's a jackwagon. Man, what's he think? There's just no relationships like that I felt like I could gravitate towards. So for me, I knew I need people. So that's where some of this online stuff came. And I realized online, if you're looking in the right way with the right heart, you can find some incredible people. You and I would not be having this conversation if an Instagram didn't exist. So God will take those environments where people are getting just smothered in sin, and he'll redeem them for good. You and I are trying to put out some good stuff. We're trying to put out some things to keep people in the light. So I think what happened is you got all this talk about how bad men are and how this and this. Listen, man, we're just as insecure as females are. We have just as much issues as the females that we knock. Like we're a hard nut to crack. So I think what I'm trying to tell these guys is, listen, if you can't find them next to you in the pew on Sunday or in your work environment, whatever, you can find them online, and that will be enough. In the winter months, you can't get sunshine. You can't take a vitamin, right?
Yeah.
Like do what you got to do to make sure you get what you need. Same with online. Take the vitamin, get what you need, and maybe along the way you'll get the real thing face to face. But we just don't friend well. We just don't do relationships well. And so then we just keep pulling ourselves away. The more we pull away, the deeper we get into sin.
That is a really good point. I'm glad you said that because, man, there's just so many guys just trying to do it alone. And I've been there too. And I tried a long time. And I tell guys, like, even still, I mean, it's not like you're going to find, 50 friends or something like that. Now, you may have relationships, but those guys who are really, really close are really deep. You may have 2, 3, 4 that, I mean, I can think of 2 guys I can call up no matter what time it is, night, day, whatever, and they're going to answer. And I know they will, and I would do the same for them. And it's just because we form that kind of relationship and just took the time to pour into each other. And I think that's exactly what you are doing. And I appreciate it. And I think it's comforting and encouraging to know that there's other guys doing the same thing. Like, we see the problem. We see that there's a need for guys to keep growing, and you're doing something about it. Like, you're really trying to push guys towards that. And I know you had a retreat this past week or so. Speak to that. Why should guys sign up for it? Why should they go? I mean, what did you see that was amazing? What did God do there?
Well, let me say this, man. It's not about me. Okay. So I will say this. If you meet me in the grocery store or come to my garage, or, please don't just pop in, but if you show up, whatever, you're going to get this. I mean, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get it all the time. But what you're going to realize is, he ain't that great. No, because I'm just like you. It's like what James wrote. Elijah was a man just like us. He had a nature just like us. There's nothing great about me. I'm not trying to make another version of me. I got 3 of them upstairs right now. That's as close as I'm going to come. What I am trying to do is build community towards Jesus. So I do think I have some things to offer, but I got a whole bunch I need from other guys. So we have, there was about, gosh, was it 5 years ago? I'm getting old. 5 years ago, we started Tribe, an online community, 6-month discipleship community. The first go of it was completely free. It was, I got 10 guys, and I said, we're going to do this for 6 months. In the first month, 6 of them quit. I said, this isn't going very well. And it was free. And I thought, I'm down to 4 guys. And then it got down to basically me and another guy, essentially. And I thought, well, this is so I scrapped it after 5 months, tried it again. God has continually added to Tribe in the last 10 years. He keeps adding to it.
Awesome.
A couple of years ago, these guys kept clamoring they wanted to have a retreat. They wanted to get together. And I'm like, will you actually show up? Because sometimes we back out of stuff all the time, you know? So I said, okay, we'll see if it happens. Well, we had a bunch of guys sign up, and most of them came, you know? So we had this huge group of guys come. We had an incredible weekend of worship. We had 3 guys give their life to Jesus. We had dudes camping in their cars on the ground. I mean, we have no resident. We're in town. So I'm like, we had guys in hotels, Airbnb, whatever. So this year we said, well, we got to do another one. We did it again. I'm like, will they come back? You know, I mean, I'm the cynic, right? Are they going to actually show up? They did. And more of them came. And so we had this great weekend, and it really is about worship. It's about camaraderie. One of the best things we did at the end of it, and it was kind of like we need something different moment, and I don't have it with me, was we had every guy when they registered fill out a white card, their first name, last name, and the state they're from. We put them in 4 bowls around the room. At the end of it, we said, hey, if you're willing to pray for a guy for a year, will you take one? And that's what I'm seeing all over the internet right now, is these guys are posting pictures of their cards of the guy that they're praying for. Last night I go to my son's room. He's got one in his room, and I didn't know he took one from the retreat. And I know the guy on this card, so I thought, well, I don't know how much a 9-year-old's praying for this guy, so I'm going to jump on board. But we prayed for that guy tonight. That's the point. It's not about me. It's not about a retreat. It's not about a brand. It's about building up godly men. I hope these guys are different when they come home than when they left, because of the community, not because of the merchandise, not because of whatever. The community. That's the thing we desperately need.
Man, that's awesome. I love hearing that. And it is about building up those other guys. And I just think, man, the more guys that can get on this kind of path, that this godly path that we're on, and everyone's on a different spot on that journey, I think. But man, if we can just keep pushing, I mean, these guys can go back and have an influence where they're at. It's huge. I just think, man, it's just, there's enough bad things going on right now, as you know, that it can be easy to get depressed. It can be easy to feel like, man, what is God doing? And then you hear stories like this, and I've seen the cards all the last few weeks here, week or so. And I'm like, and those guys are taking that back. They're going to hopefully stand up a little bit more. They're going to hopefully pursue Jesus a little bit more. And they're going to hopefully be the light in the midst of their darkness that is around them. And that's just, man, that's huge. I love hearing that. And it's exciting. I think the more we can push guys, it just can only have good benefits, and to see them pursue Jesus more, and that impacts their family. Just like you're talking about your son, that's awesome to hear. And I just, go ahead.
On Saturday, both years, we've done a building a tribe session. We don't have a lot of sessions, but I do that because guys will be curious about what is this thing and how do you get guys to do it. So I just stand up front. Here's what it is. Last year I went for like 45 minutes. This year I did 15. You get enough of me. So I said, all right, here's what it is. And I do that because, listen, I'd love for you to sign up for Tribe. I want every guy to sign up for Tribe. But if it's not for you, and for a lot of guys it isn't, start your own. You just open your garage door up, put out 3 camping chairs and say, we're going to meet every other week. We're going to meet once a month. We're going to get in the backyard. We're going to go wherever. I'd encourage you to find a spot that men will connect. Don't remove the doilies from the women's ministry and sit down. They're not going to do that. But find what works for you. For me, Tribe works just for our community. One of the reasons is because we have guys who are crazy busy. We have guys in like 12 different time zones. We have all these different variables, but it's constantly going. It's not a program. It's not a study. It's not a class. It's a community. And I'd say, listen, it doesn't have to be this one. Just start your own. I mean, there's no secret sauce to this. It takes time and it takes engagement. If you're willing to do both, you will have a community.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think we need to keep pushing it, man. We got to keep pushing this thing and just keep encouraging guys to keep growing. And I think we'll only see benefits in our family. I think as guys are pursuing manhood, as they're pursuing growing in this, maybe there's a young person that's going to watch this or listen to this. What are some key things, core values, if you will, that you would say is part of becoming a man?
I think there's 5 things that you find before sin enters the world. That's what Genesis 1 and 2. The first thing is you need to recognize Genesis 1:26, you are created in the image of God. Everything these days is designed to attack image. Whether it's how you communicate, how you identify yourself, what color of hair you got, what flag you got outside your door. It's all about image. So for me, number one, you got to embrace you are created in the image of God. If I'm created in the image of God, that means you are as well. It means all the other people are as well. So I need to understand that. Number 2, I need to understand I'm going to be fruitful and multiply. And that's not just childbearing, because some people never have children. They never get married or can't have kids. It means you need to give more than you take. So as a man, I need to give more than I take. And some days that's easier than others. I can be incredibly selfish. I can take quite a bit, so I need to be mindful of that. Number 3, I need to have dominion. And we say that means you need to have presence. I need to understand what my presence brings or what it takes away. There are some people in your life, Justin, you know this, when they show up, value goes down. You're like, oh, okay, well, we got to get through this. There's other people, when they get there, you're like, he's here. We're in good shape. We're going to be fine. I hope when my presence comes to a place, whether people know who I am or not, doesn't matter. I know I'm willing to do, I can take out the garbage. I can stand up front and talk if you want. I'll run sound. I'll go rock babies in the nursery. Whatever you need me to do, man, just whatever. So that's Genesis 1. Genesis 2:15, you're to work and keep. So God placed Adam in a garden to work it and keep it. So we give to God back better than what he gave us. We're to cultivate these things. And the 5th thing is, if you do marry, guys, you marry a woman. And that's challenged every time, left, right, and center. That's what it says. The man will leave his father and mother, hold fast. Dabak is the word, which is a gluing together. So the two are glued together and they become one flesh. Those 5 things happen before we ever sin. After we sin, then we start looking at the size of your family, the amount of land you had, the servants you have. I mean, all that. If you can get those 5 things, which will keep you busy for a long time, to me, that's the framework of being a man of God.
Yeah, that's good. I get asked a lot, like, what's it mean? What do you mean by be a man? All this stuff. And I'm like, it's that. I mean, and those 5 things, like you said, are before the fall. It gets hard after the fall. That's why we're talking about these things, is because it wasn't hard before.
Well, let's say, okay, well, what about Jesus? Jesus is the result of the fall. That's what God said, you will strike his heel and squash your head, so there's the messianic prophecy. So, but those 5 things were before, we gave into temptation, where we tried to be our own God, where we tried to question whether God would really provide for us the things that we really needed. And, I'm the same way. I was challenged with that too. Like, well, what do you mean? And, and I'm like, well, let me figure out what I mean then. I didn't realize it'd be that controversial to you to figure out what a man was, but evidently it is. So,
there's so many things that people get this picture in their head about what a man should be. And I think the more we can take it back and simplify it back to the scriptures, the better. And and for you and me, I think, and for a lot of guys, they're trying to find something that they can put their roots in. And something that's a foundational, that's firm, that won't move, especially as we live in this postmodern relative society. Your truth is yours, my truth, and all that stuff. And I think guys are just wanting something they can just find their roots and plant their feet in. And the more we go back to scripture, the more I think they just see that maybe this does work. I mean, maybe this is the real deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that was one of my tensions. I served in children's ministry a while, and I would have some incredible guys who'd be my volunteers, tech guys and teachers, small group leaders. I ran into a lot of guys. I'd stay in the hallway. I'd just recruit like crazy. And I found that there were a lot of men who could rebuild engines and gut deers and fix your roof and fix my AC unit and all this stuff. But something happened when they walked into the church. It was like we neutered them. And we said, put on the khaki pants and you can pass the offering plate. And, whether it was spoken or unspoken, I don't know. I just felt like we're underusing these guys here. It seems like, and all the wives would send them back to me and say, can he run tech? Because he doesn't want to teach a class or whatever. And it was that tension of like, man, we have got to call men to a higher standard. And you'll reach guys that I can't reach. I'll reach guys that you can't reach. Doesn't matter. We're on the same team. We keep conveying this message. We're calling guys to a higher standard. We're calling them to be a man. And I got to believe there's going to be some wives and some children who are going to get a better equipped man because we tried. It's not about you and I. We know that. But God can use us to reach these guys. They're scrolling on Instagram and they're mindlessly death scrolling through all this garbage. They could end up in a miry muck of garbage, or they could come across something you posted, and that might be the conviction they need for the day to go, you know what? Maybe I do put my phone down and go read my Bible or text my accountability partner or, whatever. I talk about, if you leave your Bible open, I think you'll get caught up in less junk online, because that Bible will stare back at you and be like, what you doing over there? Don't worry about it.
that needs to be a or something there, because that's good. Yeah.
Leave it out and leave it open. That's what we say.
Exactly. Yeah. The post I post every Sunday morning is, men, lead your family to church today. I can't tell you how many reactions that kind of spurs on, whether both positive and negative. But you made a comment there about the church equipping, and how do I put this? What has happened to a lot of churches, and I don't know when it happened, but this kind of demasculine picture of not only Jesus, but men, that has just kind of been forced into the church. And I'm not talking about going all the way to the other side where you're totally a narcissist and all that, but like, you know what I mean? And you're starting to hear more of these guys coming out that they went to that extreme. And because I was a big Mark Driscoll fan when he first came out, James McDonald, some of these guys, because they were talking about these things, but they either didn't have that person in their life to hold them accountable, or they didn't want to hear it, and they kind of went off the deep end. But they said some things in those years that needed to be said, because we've just devalued masculine men. Like, what has happened, and how do we recover?
Driscoll did. I feel like, I don't know his story. I mean, I don't know his story now. It feels like he's doing better. He's still Mark Driscoll. You still have your personality, but I'm so thankful for him, as far as, and somebody got offended by that. They heard, they asked me to clarify something about Mark Driscoll one time. Not going to do that. But anyhow, because he preached through books of the Bible. I never heard anyone do it that way. And the way he talked, you had a little heat behind it. And some guys don't like heat. They don't like that. And they're turned off by that. And that's fine. It's not for everybody. That's why there's 8 million churches in the world. And on our street alone, there might be 15 churches. I don't know. But, naturally, I think, through the years, there were guys that were working more, or it was hard to get them. And so the church became more driven towards females. I started doing that in children's ministry. I'd recruit all the guys. It was like a Promise Keepers event. I would have all the guys up there. I mean, I'd make up jobs, running the cameras. I had a guy named Chef Ron one time that brought in snacks, whatever I could do to get men up there, because it was just different to have guys up there. And we needed a ton of females. We had great females. But when I got the dad, the whole thing changed. And so I think, I think our guys are hard to reach, man. They're really hard to reach. And I don't have my Bible here, but I just searched, is 1 Kings 18, where Elijah's talking to the people of God, supposedly, before he's going to have a standoff with the prophets of Baal. And he says, why do you go limping between two different opinions? If the Lord is God, then say he is God. But if Baal is God, then you go that way. The people didn't say anything. That's what we have today. We have a bunch of mute men. We have a bunch of guys who are mute, and they don't speak up, and they don't say what they need to say. They can talk how bad your team is. They could talk about, they don't like whoever's in a political office. They could talk about a gas price, a war in another country. They could talk about their high school stats. But if it comes to something spiritual, mute. We have a bunch of mute men. And you know what? Your preacher can preach all day long until he's blue in the face. And I've tried it myself. It will not move the needle. It has to be a heart issue. Something has to happen in their heart, because all they're going to do is they feel real convicted, a lot of them, They'll go to the Little League field the next weekend. They'll sit in the deer blind a little bit longer. They'll go on the boat, a day longer, whatever. They'll just avoid you. It has to be, it's a heart issue. And if you're and then we put a lot of pressure on preachers, and I think we should, but I only get 35, 40 minutes a weekend. How many minutes do they get in the break room or at home or whatever? So if it doesn't get to your house, nothing is going to change. You can blame your pastor. You can blame your men's ministry leader. You can blame whoever you want. It's on you. Like, we are the pastors of our home. And I think we have a bunch of mute men. They can't talk spiritual things. You say, who wants to pray? And all of a sudden they're shoe salesmen. They're all staring at everybody's feet. They're like, well, what happened? They're waiting for that one guy who always prays and nobody can pray. We don't know. That's embarrassing. And for me, if those things happen, like even before I was in ministry, I was thinking, oh, heck no, I'm not going to be that guy who stares at feet. I'm not going to be the mute man who can't admit, is he God or not? Like, I just don't want to do that. And if I am going to do that, I'm not going to keep showing up. Like, I can't keep being that guy. So I think we just got a bunch of guys who are content with being mute.
Yeah. How do you breach that subject? I mean, you want to confront them, but at the same time, it's hard because, this is their pattern of life. This is kind of how they've just developed it's a habit that they have.
Like when I preach, I give it everything I got, and I'll say that, like, hey, you may not like the way I did this, but you got to go home and read the text for yourself. And we'll have people who are grown, with grown kids who are living in sin, and they'll bring them to church because they don't have the courage to tell them what you're doing is wrong. So they'll bring them to church. I'll tell them what you're doing is wrong. The grown kids will be like, that's mean. We're not coming back. And then the parents will be like, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. You don't have the courage. You don't have the marbles to say, hey, I love you too much to let this keep going on. So you try to tell them, but at the end of the day, it's like for a pastor, if a couple's living together, I say, man, I need a time of separation before I can marry you. I had a guy once say, I hope you just respect my convictions. I said, I hope you respect my convictions. Yeah. So we kind of got a standoff here. He just went down the street and found someone else who would marry him. They'll just go somewhere else. So I think, number one, you are responsible to tell the truth. Now, I think you can do it with grace, but there better be loaded with truth. So you can have a balance, but
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is, except for to try to model it, because I just see a lot of guys who are mute men.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think it's been a problem for a long time. And I don't know.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How many guys do you know? And this is hypothetical. Yeah. That are Christian, but never post anything Christian. They'll post the latest political issue. They'll post the latest New York Times article. They'll repost what a company's doing or not doing, but they never tell you anything about Jesus. I'm like, what are you doing? You talk about a waste of time.
Yeah, I think there's tons. There's a lot of them. I see it all the time. I mean, and most guys, they've got to be all in. And that's what we want, is for them to be all in. But at the same time, I'm like, I said I've been going through 1 John on Sundays and preaching through 1 John, and there's a lot there that's pretty convicting, and I've not held back too much. And one Sunday I just said, like, if someone were to look at your social media, like, would they have any idea that you were a Christian? And I don't know if people took that. I know one person did, because they talked to me afterwards about it, but they were pretty convicted about it. Now, it was a female, not a guy, which I was hoping for the whoever, but still, I'm like, what are we doing? Like,
I've had to unfollow the people in my church, not because they're bad. I'm still friends with them. I can't see it. I can't. It's because, it's like a carpenter going to your house and saying, this is how you build the box. This is the box. This is the blueprint. Here's the nails. Here's the hammer. Here's whatever. And maybe he comes back to your house in a week. Maybe it's 2 weeks. Maybe it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Maybe it's next time Christmas rolls around. I don't know. But he comes to your house and the box is exactly the same or worse. He's going to go, what just happened? That's what it is. You can present this every week. You can try to say, man, that was pretty simple. Your social media should reflect the things that you just sang on the songs. Okay. I've said that you could post a sermon quote. Oh, you could post an image of a song that you sang. You could post the link to the original artist of the song.
Yeah.
No, you took a quiz whether you should be a witch or not. You took a quiz on what state you're from.
Yeah.
You posted. You're more passionate about what 18 to 20-year-olds do on Saturday, and your colors, and it's this week and this hashtag.
Yeah.
But you can't pray in public. Okay, we got a problem here. Like,
yeah.
I'm starting to question. I don't get to determine your salvation, but I'm starting to wonder what the heck's going on here. As Paul said, was it in vain? Did the gospel come to you and hit a dead end? Because it's not going to go to anybody else, because you're not doing anything with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, where's the fruit? I mean, there's, and, you know, people always throw out that no judging stuff. And they misapply that all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not judging. I'm just witnessing what you're putting out there. Right. I'm taking in what you're dishing out.
What was the parable of the fig tree? The fig tree gave the impression that it was something that it wasn't. Jesus said, you're done. There will come a point with all of us where God will say, that's it, no further. No,
Yeah.
we're done. And that's why I say I at least owe this to you. I at least owe this. And you may not like the way that I do it. I've said before, when all the stuff was going, and it won't be last time, but social justice stuff going on, people got upset that I wasn't teaching on that. I said, I'm not your social justice pastor. I'm never going to ever do that. If that's what you want, either this is not your church or I'm not your pastor. I'm good with either one of them. If I need to move on, that's fine. Or if you need to find somewhere else, that's fine. This is what we're going to do on Sunday morning. If on Tuesday afternoon you want to have one of those talks where we all listen to each other better, great. We're not using Sunday morning for that. That's out. You know, Wednesday night, you want to try that? Sure. Suddenly everyone's busy. Nobody, those talks weren't as important on Tuesdays and Mondays. We only wanted to do it on the convenient day when we're already there, so we can say, look what we're doing. How come you don't do that about the gospel? Either you already have the gospel, you've already received it, or you don't. It's one or the other. So if you received it, then move. Let's go. Come on. We need you to get on this. And if you haven't, what are you doing?
Yeah. I don't stand up there every Sunday and say, repent and believe for no reason, right? I want to go on that journey with you. I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to see you grow as a Christian and believe, but I'm right there with you. I think I want to ask you this, like, what are you doing so people know you're a real guy? What are you working on right now in your own life, just to become a better man, become a better father, husband, all those things?
Well, I'm trying to, what we're trying to, pray together as a family. That seems like that's so basic, but it was scheduled. This is the first week we haven't had soccer all the time. However, we still, we try to get, whether it's the morning or the evening, like we're gonna tie the knot somewhere. I got a guy I'm discipling right now. So the morning when my wife and kids, they take off before I leave, I can't, if I do quiet time at church, it's over. It ain't gonna work. But so I do it here. He texts me, I text him. We've been doing this for, man, I don't know how long. I got my tribe guys that I'm doing that with. So trying to work on having some quiet time, trying to be more intentional with prayer as far as, I'm not a marathon prayer. I know guys that will go to the office like an hour before Sunday morning. They lay on their face and that's not me. Not yet. Maybe that'll happen someday. So just trying to be more intentional with that. And for me, it's just a constant evaluation, that there's like, how are we doing with that? And so one of the ways that I'm sharpened the most, and I don't have a bunch of guys who just say, Jarrett, you're wonderful. I don't. That's not what these communities are about. But I'll tell you what, like when I log off of this or when I log off of those Zoom calls, I never log off here going, man, I got this thing figured out. I always leave like challenged and convicted and be like, doggone, I needed to hear that. The stuff you're saying, brother, I'm like, oh, I needed to hear that. And so trying to be more in tune with the Holy Spirit, because I just believe I miss a lot of opportunities. I'm quite a bit of a lone wolf introvert. And so for me, if I'm going anywhere in public, I just want to be left alone. I just want to get in. I want to get out. And I'm asking like, Lord, this isn't about buying some Pepsi at the grocery store, is it? Like, who are we looking for here? Like where, who do you want me to run into? Do you want me to have a conversation? Whatever that is. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's good. I think sometimes people think we've got us all figured out and all those stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we don't. And we're all working on things. I'm right there. I'm with you on the prayer thing. I make it I write it down because I know if I get caught up in my schedule or once the messages start flowing in or calls or whatever, I can go all morning and just not prioritize it, you know? And for me, I've got to write stuff down or else I'll just skip right over. And I take advantage because I have to drive pretty far wherever we have to go, being in a rural town now, but I try to take more advantage of those times. And that has been good since I've made that priority, but I'm right there with you. There's always something to be working on. And with 4 kids, I mean, it's chaos half the time. I mean, I've got an almost teenager and a 2-year-old and 2 more in between there. And it's chaos in our house. It is never quiet, but except when they're all in bed.
That's why you got the sound stuff around you, man, to try to give yourself
exactly right.
A little
I can already hear them above me pounding on the floor, doing all that stuff.
No, I think that's that's you and I, man. Like, I think we both admit, like, you know, what I preach on the weekend, I'm trying to live out. The Holy Spirit has convicted me throughout the message. Like, oh, really? How you doing with that? What I talk about in the podcast, I'm trying to figure that out. You know, the communities I'm a part of, I create those communities not because I want people to sit at my feet, because I need really good guys. I need guys who will challenge me. I got guys in those groups who know the word, like, I mean, forwards and backwards. And you're like, good night. What do I do all day? Do I just drool in a cup? I mean, these guys are like working blue collar jobs and they can just quote, you know. I got guys who are strong prayer warriors. And I'm like, oh man, oh, you know, hey, you want to pray? You know, but I don't want to avoid better because I'm insecure or afraid I'll be found out. That's why I try to be like, hey man, there's nothing great about me. I'm just trying to get this right. And along the way, we hope some other guys get it right as well. Are we hypocrites? Yeah, we don't want to be, but we make mistakes. Sure. You know, if your kids and my kids will hop on here and we turn them loose, go, hey, no, we don't want to do that. But
no,
we're trying, man. That's all we can say is we're trying.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some things you do for fun? They kind of just keep you, because we can get into some deep stuff sometimes. And if we don't have something that kind of just let our minds a little space out at times, it can get pretty heavy. So what do you do to manage all that?
I like to hike. You know, I'm not like scale the mountain hiker, but I like to hike. I like a good trail. We're getting ready to do that here shortly as a family again. So that's pretty special times. It's funny, when I started the Pursuit of Manliness, I kind of really downplayed my sports fandom because I felt like it was almost in a negative light. You know, the guy who lays on the couch all day with Cheetos on his chest, and you know, and I'm like, so I kind of, you know, but I'm like, you know, if you came to my house, you're going to see like he's a fan, and I'm probably going to watch the game and be a terrible host. So I love sports. I love especially soccer. Not U.S. soccer, but I love, like, you know, international soccer, Premier League soccer. I love Notre Dame. I see your hat, but they break my heart. And Green Bay. I'm a Packers fan, so okay. I love sports. We have done from time to time. We're not right now. It's just a weird schedule, but we kind of turn it into like family tailgating, where maybe we make special food and, you know, we kind of whatever. But that's about once a year now. It used to be a little bit more than that, but so I love sports. I don't play them anymore because I'm too out of shape, but and I'm too competitive. But and hiking, that's the thing. And you know, but you know what? I love this. You know, for me, talking to guys like you, talking to other guys, you know, I love it. Like, to me, that's life giving, and I would be a much worse pastor if I didn't have that. Yeah,
that's something you just said there. It has. I went on the fence a long time whether to do this or not, or just give guys an opportunity to just kind of talk. And I'm finding that I get more challenged than anything I could ever say. You know, like it challenges me to be better or to do better or to say, yeah, I don't have this all figured out. I need to do something different here. You know?
And I think, again, the ministry can be very lonely. You know, whether you got close friends, strong eldership, board, whatever you got, it's still lonely. You still walk out and feel like this all falls on your shoulders to a degree, whatever your ministry is. And so for me, I've shared before, like we have these patches and stuff we do for different events. Like I'll carry one in my pocket, and it's just a reminder, like you don't walk alone. You know, when you got a band of brothers or when you got some people, like you don't walk alone. You're walking with other guys. When I don't feel like getting in the Word tomorrow morning, I shouldn't have said it that way. Let's say there was a day I've already said I don't want to get in the Word. You know, if I don't feel like getting in the Word, let's say Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon, whatever, there's a bunch of dudes getting in the Word. So I may want to find out, you know, just because I don't feel like it doesn't mean I shouldn't. So to have those things keep spurring you on. And I think we become better men because of these types of relationships.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, and I appreciate that. And, you know, I don't want to keep you all night. So I know you got family, all those things too, but what's kind of what would you challenge men with? If you had one thing to challenge them on, what would you tell them?
I'd say get in the Word. Will you just commit to being in the Word? And I don't mean verse of the day. I mean, your phone is great, but it's not the same. Get a copy of the Bible. I'm a mark it up guy, highlight it, post it note, whatever. Would you get in the Word and maybe find some other guys that will get in it with you and you know, read a chapter a day. I mean, we're not talking about like a 45-minute deep theological study. If you get there, that's great. But let's start with, will you read a chapter? And would you just stay with that for a period of time? And find other guys that will do it with you. Because if you don't have community, you'll quit. You'll have cheat days and cheat weeks and cheat months. But I have found that once you're responsible to people, it's a game changer. And so I opened my mouth, I don't know, about 10 days ago or something. And I said, there's 86 days left in the year. What if we got in the Word every day for 86 years? Well, it was more than 86. I don't know what, I'm terrible at math. So anyway, whatever the number was, I was wrong. However, every day now, I'm like, get in it and take a picture of it, which feels a little narcissistic, but I'm like, we're trying to just say, hey, we're still doing this, you know. It's not a selfie, but it's a picture. But what if we inspired other guys along the way to get in the Word? So I'd say, man, get in it. That's the only thing that's going to change you, getting connected to the presence of God.
Yeah.
You could try all the moral compass adjustments you want. But at the end of the day, you have to get out of the spiritual high chair where people are not stuffing food in your mouth no more. The food is better in the booth with the fork and knife than it is in the high chair where people spoon feed you bland food.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think this time of year, especially in our positions, it gets really crazy. And we're getting ready to hit that here very, very soon. And it's there's been several years where I've just been like, let's get to January, you know, it's just crazy. And I've been challenged by a few guys this year to really evaluate that and maybe not take on so much this year, which is hard for me because I feel like I got to do everything. So and I started to learn how to kind of take a step back a little bit. And I'm being challenged to make sure, you know, the Word is central. And I think that's just key. All of the things we're talking about here go back to that. And I wish guys realize that. I really do.
Now, I've been guilty far too many times of using the Word for fodder for a lesson or a podcast or a video. Like, I just need a verse, you know, or, you know, I read something my quiet time. I'm like, yeah, that will teach. All right, let's get on. You know, right now where I'm at is I bring nothing to the Bible time. Not my journal, not my pen, or whatever. And I just said, I'm a marker upper. I'm telling you, I got all kinds of colors. They mean nothing. I have no system. I just use whatever I have in my hand. But right now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. For right now, I'm just going to read this. And with Tribe, we have a reading plan. So I just follow along with that. But that's where I'm at now. And then in the next season, I'll get back to probably writing some things down or whatever that is. But I think you have to change your location too. If you sit in the same spot every day for 15 minutes and have a conversation with your wife, and I'll say, I'll see you tomorrow at the same time, the same place, it gets a little stale after a while. And I think you need to go outside. I think you need to sit in your car. I think you need to go into the orthodontist place with your kid and read the Bible. I think you just need to it needs to have some freshness to it. Stand up. try a different chair, whatever it needs to be. And again, like the idea of leave it out, leave it open. Hopefully it isn't just for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Hopefully you go back to it another time, and it becomes a relationship then.
Yeah, that's good. I just hope guys get onto that and just really, I hope they take it, man. Because what we've been talking about here, we need guys who will step up, just embrace it, and just realize whatever mockery, whatever comes, who cares? In the long run, who cares? I mean, we just got to stand up and embrace this call as Christians, persevere in the faith, and act like men. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, like Paul said, we've got to do it. And I think what you're doing is awesome. I think it's encouraging, and I want people to go check it out and see it all, and just, really, and not just read it, but take it and apply it. Like you're saying, take it back to wherever you are. I mean, there's guys from all over this country who need to see this and read this and say, yeah, I can take a step forward. I can become that guy who kind of leads this charge, because the battle's not going to be any easier, especially in the culture wars that we are facing right now. We've got to be the ones who just take this on and lead the way. And I appreciate you. You've been encouraging to me more times than I can tell you, and you didn't even know it. And I follow your stuff, and it has pushed me. I appreciate you.
Here's the reality. Someone has to go first. Yeah. Someone has to be the leader, and it's going to be the guy listening right now, and his earbuds going, ain't me. Yep, buddy, it's you. I promise it's you, because that's the guy that God wants. Because I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to stand on a stage. I'd rather just sit in the lobby. But I'll tell you this. I appreciate that compliment you just gave me. Yeah. Here's why. And as you said that, I thought, okay, this is what I'm saying. If that guy who's listening, who says, not me, not going to do that. If you'll just take a picture every day of your Bible, what you're reading, you don't have to put anything to it. Just take a picture, put it on your Instagram story, your Facebook story, whatever. Just leave it there. I promise you, somebody's going to see that, and somebody's going to move the needle on that and say, all right, I'll give it a try. I guarantee it. We all have influence. We all have it. So we might as well use it in the appropriate manner, because you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's paying attention. So if every day you just snapped a picture of, I don't care, whatever it is you read that day, post it, text it to a friend, whatever, I guarantee there's influence there. God is not going to waste that. He's not going to waste it. Somebody's going to consider that and move on it. I promise.
Yeah. I mentioned the Sunday post I do about leading your family to church. You had a guy at your retreat who I was talking to a few weeks ago, and he told me that they got caught up, him and his wife, they had a baby. They got caught up in the COVID, kind of watching online, all that kind of stuff, And he told me he saw it every Sunday, and eventually it just got too much. He was so convicted by seeing it that he said, you know what, we're going this Sunday. And he's leading that charge. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. We got to keep pushing it. Yeah, it's just cool to see guys when they get it and they want to be different.
So it takes you a minute. I don't know if you use hashtags. I'm terrible at this, but it takes you a minute, let's say, to make that post. If that minute per week changes that kid's legacy and that dad's influence and their marriage, and other people are looking at their marriage, I think that 1 minute a week post is worth it. Again, how much garbage is on social media, and your post, I don't know if you knew that guy or not prior to that conversation, but that post that he's observing every week went, okay, I'm sick and tired of seeing that. We're going to do something about it. That might be it. That might be the game changer for him and that kid and that kid's future spouse and their future kids. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
So keep doing what you're doing. Keep
awesome.
Posting. Keep doing that stuff, because we need every guy in the fight possible. We need them all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just hope guys will see this and hear this and just say, I can do that. I mean, I can do those things. Why am I not doing that? What's holding me back from doing what those guys are doing? And if they can do it, I can do it. And I hope they do it, because they're going to reach people we never will. And, or, theoretically. And the more we can push this, the better. Hopefully we see God's kingdom grow, and that's what we want to see ultimately, is see the gospel go forth and see guys embrace it and change and live the life that God has called them to be. And man, let's just keep it going.
Amen. I just, every guy that I come in contact with, I say, we need more. Whatever it is, we just need more. I mean, hey, I'm thinking about starting it, do it. Hey, I might start a podcast, do it. I'm thinking about starting Instagram, do it. Like, we want them all, because I mean, again, you're going to reach guys that I don't even know exist. I might reach guys that you don't know exist. You got a guy that didn't even know he's watching your post, who suddenly told his wife, we're getting back to church. She might have been praying for weeks to go back to church. So God will redeem this. God will use this. But if we stay on the course that we're on and do nothing, it doesn't get any better. It gets a whole lot worse. So at least we want to say our generation tried. We tried to use the tools available to us. I think Paul would have used these tools. I think Peter would have used these tools. We're going to use them. You and I can reach people across the globe in a eighth of a second. We're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's good, man. Jarrett, I really appreciate this. I've enjoyed this conversation. I think people, when they hear it, they will too, and just be challenged, because I'm challenged to keep going and keep pressing on. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the time.
Hey, man, Justin, I appreciate it. And I love what you're doing, man. Stay after it. Stay after it, man. I think when we do things like this, Satan can try to attack ourselves. He can try to attack our marriages, our kids, whatever. So if you guys are listening to this and you love what Justin does, and I'm sure you do, pray for him. Pray for his marriage. Pray for his kid. Pray for his kid's future spouse. All those things, because it can be a strange journey, a lonely journey at times to do stuff like this, man. And we need you, Justin. Keep staying faithful. Keep putting this stuff out.
I appreciate that, Jarrett. I do. I really do. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. I'll be praying for you as well. And other guys, same thing. Be praying for them. Be praying for those guys that like your posts all the time. Just keep them in your prayers, because they're reading those things, and hopefully they're taking those things, they're sharing them, they're doing their own thing too. And I think we just have to remember that this is spiritual warfare, and it's hard. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate this conversation, and I hope guys are encouraged by it.